Hey, it's Joe. I'll confess I have always hated going to the dentist. Childhood trauma from dentists and orthodontists left me avoiding the chair, but my avoidance came with a cost I never realized. Today we will explore how our oral health is the unexpected linchpin to our entire well-being. How oral health done right is oh so simple, while also providing benefits way beyond white teeth and fresh breath. Remember our episodes on nitric oxide for heart health and athletic performance? On nasal breathing for CO2 tolerance? On gut health and mitochondrial function? They all connect back to what's happening in your mouth. The bacterial battlefield in your oral cavity influences everything from how your blood vessels dilate to how well you recover from your workouts. And the chronic inflammation from your poor oral health, it's silently sabotaging your performance and your longevity. Today we are talking with Dr. Ellie Phillips, a famous and controversial dentist with over 4 decades of experience focused on empowering people to achieve optimal oral health through education and practical advice that anyone can follow. She has been teaching her daily oral care routine for decades and is designed to prevent and heal cavities and gum disease using a specific collection of commonly available oral health care products used in a particular sequence to balance mouth, biochemistry, protect enamel, and fight plaque. So whether you're looking to improve your smile, keep your teeth for your entire life, reduce chronic inflammation in your body, or just simply live longer, today's episode is chock full of low-hanging fruit. All right, let's talk to Dr. Ellie Phillips. Dr. Ellie Phillips, welcome to the Wise Athletes Podcast.
It's great to be here, and thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, well, my pleasure. Thanks for being patient while we work through these technical issues. Thank you for making time for the older athlete. This is my 5th year. I've been interviewing experts in all areas, of health and athletic performance, everything from, VO2 max to proper footwear to hormonal health. And I happened just a little while ago, I happened upon a talk you were giving, and I can't even say why I didn't turn it off when I realized you were talking about oral health, which I had zero interest in, but discovered to my amazement that oral health was a huge blind spot in my overall efforts to be a strong and healthy athlete. Maybe it's a blind spot because I've always hated brushing my teeth and I always hated going to the dentist. But what I discovered from you is that this is a huge blind spot, and today we're going to take at least a step forward in filling it. Welcome.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad that you actually see dentistry. I think you mentioned to me when we spoke first that you saw it as a necessary evil, and that's actually sort of how my story began. To let your listeners know, I'm British. They'll be wondering what this funny accent is. My parents were both British, and in England, when I grew up, it was pretty normal for people to have all their teeth taken out and a set of dentures fitted as a wedding present.
Oh my God.
And it was a wedding gift that basically got rid of all that trouble of teeth. Let's just take them out and we'll give you the gift of these plastic teeth so that you don't have to mess with that anymore the rest of your life. And I think in America, you might have to go back a little bit earlier than that, but my father was 35 when he had all his teeth taken out for entry into the military so that he wouldn't have trouble on the battlefield. He wouldn't have a pain, a toothache, or gum disease or anything. And my mother was told to have all her teeth taken out because they were moving around when she was 45 years old. Now, the good news for me was I was a dental student in England at that time, and they were doing a study called the Nun Study, N-U-N, in a convent with nuns in the 1960s. That's when I was at dental school. And what they discovered from this study with the nuns was that the earlier these nuns lost their teeth, and of course they were women, not men, the earlier these women lost their teeth, completely lost all their teeth, the more risk they were for early onset dementia. And in my family, when I learned that, I looked around and yes, almost every aunt, in my family, all the women in my family, once they hit the age of 65, were pretty much nuts with a set of dentures. And they would wander around. I mean, we had, crazy Auntie Annie and Auntie Agnes and so on. And so I told my mother, do not have your teeth taken out and do not come to the dental school because they'll take your teeth out. I will find you a solution. So that's the beginning of my story. It was something that I had to do as a very young dental student, was figure out, how can I stop my mother losing her teeth, at the point of which her dentist was saying there was nothing else left for her to do except have her teeth taken out. Now, the second thing is, she's not a dirty person. My mother was very elegant. My parents were part of the diplomatic service at that point. I mean, she brushed her teeth. She was elegant. She was beautiful. She had great hair and clothes. And so why were her teeth falling out? And this is the thing. This is not about brushing your teeth. It is not about going to the dentist. It is about an infection, a transmissible infection. Mothers kiss it to their babies. Grandparents kiss gum disease to their grandchildren. Whatever's in your mouth, you are sharing with your daughters. This is very grave. This is very dangerous, because the trouble is, it doesn't just go away. If you go to the dentist and have a cleaning, they don't clean your mouth. They don't clean your teeth. They simply do a walk around, and the minute you go to the dental, counter to pay your bill, to give them your credit card, the infection that they've just cleaned away is right back. Nobody is addressing the underlying problem of dental disease. And this was my mother's problem. I had to get rid of this disease. And, it's not a game, and it's not about brushing your teeth. And I wrote a book called Kiss Your Dentist Goodbye. But it's not about getting rid of your dentist. It's about you empowering yourself. Somehow taking a machete through the garbage on the internet, both from the industry of dentistry that's stuck about 100 years in the past, unfortunately, when they educate dentists, to the marketing that's on the extreme other side, that is trying to get you to buy products that are either dangerous or not helpful, or you don't know. How do you know if nanohydroxyapatite is the thing to do? They know, they've got your number these days. They know that you're afraid of fluoride. They know that you are scared of gum disease. And who's telling the truth?
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is going to be great. I have to say that there is not one part of my health, except for this one, that I have not had a deep dive in trying to optimize as much as I can. And so it's astonishing to me that I had this blind spot and just did not even think to figure out how to do this. And then when I started looking into it, and you'll know a million times more than I have picked up here in the last few weeks, the health of my oral cavity, my mouth, is central to the health of my whole body. I can't be a healthy person if I don't have a healthy mouth. So this is crazy that I haven't looked into it. But okay, we're going to start today. And I had a few things that I thought we would try to walk through at least quickly, just to get to where we can then talk about, well, what was all this great stuff you learned that would help people to know how to take care of themselves, so that they're not constantly going in and getting cavities filled and root canals done, or maybe implants put in where their teeth have been extracted, or it's infecting their body with this bacteria that's in their mouths, that's escaping through into their bloodstream. I mean, this is going to be an important chat. So here's what I thought we would talk about in some level of detail before we got into the details of, what should we do?
Yeah,
So
sure.
the first one would be, why is oral health important? I mean, I think some of it's obvious and some of it isn't, but we could just at least walk through some of that, and then we could talk about what you talking mostly. What does the mouth do? The mouth is prepared for all of the stuff that lives in it, and the stuff that we're putting into it. The natural things. The mouth is prepared for that, and it defends itself and it heals itself. sort of like my skin. If I scratch it, it'll heal. Or I get a sunburn, it'll heal. If I have bacteria in my mouth and I have damage, it'll heal as long as I let it, as long as I don't interfere with that process. But if we can start by just understanding, well, what is the body doing when it's trying to heal the teeth and heal the gums and
Yeah.
things like that, and then we can get into, well, how are we wrecking it? How are
Yeah.
we interfering with that process, and what really is needed to do it? And some of this is general goodness stuff that any expert would say you should do. And then there's stuff where it's your program that's beyond that maybe some experts will say they don't agree with you, but you have a rationale for why you think that what you're saying is true. And then if we have time, I would love to kill some myths if we
Yeah,
could get.
I'd love to be. That's perfect. And I want to say right here that I think anyone listening to me needs to know I am a dentist. I licensed in England. I first did some oral surgery in England, and then I got a job offer in Switzerland. So I then left the country as a very young dentist, and I ended up in Switzerland learning as an apprentice from an older dentist in Switzerland. And I would say that that is where I gained the most of my knowledge about health. I was already a food conscious health investigator, I would call myself. For a teenager in England at that time, was pretty unusual. I did yoga. I ate, pretty healthy. I understood fiber and whole grains and value of foods. And then I worked in this, what was a wonderful dental practice in Switzerland, learned basically what I will teach in a minute when we get to there. And then I took it back to England, had 10 years in my own office with an unbelievable opportunity to see how it worked, because I was the person who decided what to do. So I was private, not national insurance base, and I had patients who completely reversed cavities, cured gum disease. It was an unbelievably exciting and joyous practice. I came to America following an ex-husband who was a periodontal researcher, which again, I had a lot of experience learning from him about gum disease and how it happens, and the research, the most modern research of all, and got involved in that. I came to America and I had to become a specialist, so I'm a pediatric dentist. I took a second specialty, which was geriatric and special needs, uh, and then cosmetic dentistry. So I'm a pretty experienced dentist in most fields, mainly because I've worked in 3 countries. In academia, I've been married to a researcher, and I'm also a business owner. So I started, again, a sort of disclaimer I should say at the beginning. I got so mad that nobody would do research on xylitol that 25 years ago, and we'll talk about xylitol, I took my 401k from the university I was working for and started my own xylitol company before the internet. But it was because I was so passionate and I was so frustrated with the fact that I could not get research done. I decided, hey, I'll just do this myself. And
Was this Zellie's?
this is Zellie. So it's a
Okay, great. I actually
xylitol.
use those xylitol gums, so thanks for that.
Well, just letting you know, that's the story. I still went on being a dentist with this company that I can assure you didn't make me any money at all, for almost 20 years, but kept supporting it because it was an avenue to teach people. And teaching and educating people is my passion. So that's me.
Well,
Just say,
good. Well, yeah, thank you for that. I did mean to ask you to give us a little bit about your background, and just kind of went blasting past it. So let's start. Give us kind of the high level view. Why is oral health important to human beings?
well, I think the first thing is we've got to talk about American oral health. I mean, I've sat next to somebody on the plane before now and talked about oral health, and she's like, "Yeah, I've got great teeth." And I looked at her and saw the plaque and the stuff on her teeth, and I'm evaluating her mouth, going, "Oh my goodness!" You see, in America, having white, straight teeth makes you think you're in good shape. It's nothing to do with oral health. This is like saying that the trees on the edge of the garden are looking good. And you in the middle of the garden, you've got weeds and stuff growing in your grass and all kinds of
So it's like
mess.
makeup over sun-damaged skin. It looks better, but it's not healthy.
Exactly. And it was coming to America that really shocked me, because it was an era. I came in the 1980s, and at the time there was a program like the Big Makeover or something it was called, and dentists were taking people into their office, and on this TV program was showing their before teeth, all crooked and messed up and dirty looking. And then next thing you know, the dentist has done this makeover with crowns and veneers and all the stuff, and they walk out, with the movie smile, and everybody's go, wow. And that's when people started doing root canals and crowns and veneers, and everyone wanted whitening. I was in the whitening class going, oh my goodness, you kidding me? And then I see all these health experts whitening their teeth. Are they nuts? I mean, if you knew what real strong white teeth, what it takes to make a tooth white, you'd understand that teeth are not white. The teeth are glass, which means they're translucent. And if you're trying to whiten glass, the quickest way to do it is to etch it. So the initial whitening products back in the 80s were either scratching the surface, that would be Rembrandt toothpaste, or they were etching because they were so acidic. I mean, those white strips were battery acid, basically. And if you etch the surface of a tooth, it will become white. It is the first stage of demineralization. So, do I think white teeth are healthy teeth? Well, I don't. I know, because I have such a trained eye, what is natural and what is beyond a natural color. And I also know that different lights make your teeth look different. So you may be judging in dental offices. Let me tell you, some of these really bad dental offices will put fluorescent lights in such a way that your teeth look awful. They'll give you a mirror and say, would you like us to do whitening for you? And these are the colors we can get your teeth. And you come out with blue white teeth of a color that doesn't exist in nature. Is that what you really want?
Well,
And
and if it makes the teeth weaker as a side effect, that's terrible.
that's the first thing it does. It denatures the proteins inside your teeth. Now, people, I fight with dentists who tell you that's not true. This is not going to happen. And I've fought those fights now for 20 years. I even believe that the peroxide has the potential to strip what I call healthy biofilm. We can talk about that in a minute. It's basically a kind of healthy skin that forms over your mouth, very translucent, very thin. You don't see it, but it protects the underlying tissues, whether it's teeth or gums or tongue or whatever. And this biofilm is dissolved by baking soda, it's dissolved by peroxide. And this whitening stuff that they do, I think, leaves the skin cells at risk. If you're worried about oral cancer, I would not do whitening. I mean, I called up the Oral Cancer Society to tell them my concerns. Why don't you ask people this question when they have oral cancer? Have they done whitening? And if so, which products? And they won't do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Well, so somehow we got off track because what we were going to
Well,
start with is why is oral health important?
well, here's the thing. We've got to talk about what is oral health, because I am not going to talk about straight teeth. I think Invisalign and braces can cause an incredible amount of damage if they don't put your teeth in the right final balanced position. And that's all I'm going to say about that today. If you want me back, we can talk more. But people think Invisalign, and that once their teeth are straightened up, they're going to be healthy. That's not the case. If you're doing Invisalign, make sure you've got somebody who understands occlusion. The second thing is where your teeth are positioned will affect your airway. I think that's vitally important. I think that if your teeth are you start extracting wisdom teeth that don't have to be extracted, that is not healthy because you'll shrink your mouth and shrink your airway. So I am against extracting wisdom teeth in teenagers. And let's say no more about that on this. But, I have this different viewpoint that almost needs explanation on each point, but it's because I'm looking my ideal goal for you or we probably have to go to one's child or grandchild because it's too late for most of us. I've had my wisdom teeth out. I've had things done. I don't want your grandchild to ever have a plastic filling. To put that plastic in someone's mouth, I think is wrong. To put a sealant to block up the grooves of a tooth, I think is wrong. What we aim for is a mouth of natural teeth that comes through in their own time and make sure they are in the right place to give you the best airway possible and the best bite possible for health. And my goal for you is that you will never, ever need dental treatment. I mean, maybe an occasional cleaning, maybe not even needing that, depending on if we can get your mouth protected and healthy as young as possible.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a good goal. But let's start with this question of, how is having healthy teeth and gums and the healthy bacteria in your mouth, how is that important to the health of the body outside of the mouth?
Which totally, it's everything because I believe, and I was talking to my daughter who's a PT that deals with pelvic floor health, and she deals with a lot of athletes and older women, and she's like, Mom, I have so many people who've got so many problems. I don't know how to help them. And they're seeing these nutritional, natural practitioners, and they're just being treated forever and ever and ever, and they're not getting any better. And I said to my daughter, the problem is that people are not looking at oral health or nasal health. They sometimes look at digestive health, which is great. But I believe for body health, the three openings to the exterior that come out of your body, your nose, your mouth, and your colon health, you have to balance all three places at the same time for your body to be healthy. And if you have leaky gut, you will have periodontal problems most likely.
Yeah, leaky
And if you
gums.
have periodontal problems is the same thing as leaky gums. You are probably going to end up, the whole thing is integrated because the bacteria and the biofilm of the mouth and the nose connects, and it goes down your throat, gets into your digestive tract. I mean, there is obviously bacteria gets swallowed every time we eat and drink and do things. I mean, that's constant all day long. So there's a bacterial transfer, there's a biofilm connection and communication. And then there is this thing where what we consume, if our gut is lined by healthy bacteria and good mucus lining, this butyrate that is so vital to the lining of your gut, you'll absorb minerals, get into your bloodstream, circulate around your body. And the salivary glands are basically a nest of capillaries where there's an exchange between your blood and the liquids that then take these minerals and everything else, the immune cells, into your mouth. And given the right conditions, and you were saying the second thing we'll talk about is how the body's prepared to heal itself. The most healing liquid we have for teeth and gums is our saliva. And especially if we eat well and have a healthy digestive tract so that we absorb these minerals out of a good diet, and then they end up in our mouths 60 to 90 minutes after we have eaten them. If you eat broccoli, for example, and you get minerals out of the broccoli, they have traced these to be in our mouth, the minerals, the nitrates, and so forth, 60 to 90 minutes after eating the vegetable. Now, you can add butter to the vegetable to get more absorption. And it's interesting that butter is butyrate. So, there's so much connection and so much we don't fully understand yet.
It's like
But
the saliva is like a plasma. It's like the blood without the red blood cells or something.
absolutely. I mean, it's everything. Your skin of your mouth, your dorsum of your tongue, your teeth, everything you needs to be healthy. Now, the problem is, and people love to point to Weston Price. If you have people, who are in the alternative world, Weston Price was a dentist back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Fabulous dentist. He's my kind of guy. You're looking for the underlying cause. He didn't. He knew that this was a preventable disease. He knew that breastfeeding for longer was going to make the palate flatter because the baby had to suck more harder, and the palate actually gets lower, which widens your jaw as a baby, and it's foundational for the later growth of your whole mouth and skeleton of your face. He thought people, he was brilliant. There were so many brilliant people back in the early 1900s. Sadly, dentistry split from medicine about that time. They brought in amalgam, the silver filling, into the idea of dentistry at that time, and dentistry became a mechanical, focused industry. And I think most dentists are pretty much mechanical minded people. They like the mechanics of the implants and all the little tools of dentistry and the IT now of dentistry.
They're like plumbers now.
Well, I got into dentistry for all the wrong reasons. I hadn't got a clue. I thought we were healing people's teeth. And when I discovered in my first job in Switzerland that teeth had the capacity to naturally heal, that your gums had lymphatic liquids in them, that if you massaged your gum with a toothbrush, the lymphatic liquids would take away infection, and you would massage the gums to get circulation to bring healing to your gums. I'm going, wow, that's fascinating. And in the evening in Switzerland, I would go to a sauna where they would say, brush your skin, honey, to get the circulation and the lymphatic movement in your skin. Do the hot sauna and then the cold plunge because it'll help the inflammation go away. I learned this stuff in 1970, and it's today's news. So I have approached dentistry from this angle, that your teeth can heal itself, your tooth can heal itself. And when patients came into my office, if you had a cavity, I would say, if you were, would you like to try and heal it yourself? I'm with you. I'll help you. And I would explain that you have to give your saliva time to heal your teeth. And that means you end your meal. So simple. You end your meal and you don't eat or drink again for 2 hours. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, so you're jumping ahead on me now. I want to pull back, and I still am looking for the answer to this first question, and I'm just going to try to answer it here. You tell me what I get wrong. That obviously, if my teeth are sore or loose because my gums are bad, or they're rotted and they're going to break if I chew on food, then that's going to be a problem for me. Maybe it was more of a problem before I had access to fire and and these days processed foods. But still, having teeth in your head seems like an important part of having a good life. So keep your teeth. Another thing which I'm familiar with and had a podcast episode on was nitric oxide is made, at least partially and more as we get older, in the mouth.
That's correct.
And then the last thing, which I'll just foreshadow, and then you can tell us more about it, is so much of our health is based on proper barriers, keeping the outside out and the inside in. And as our mouth gets weakened, the bacteria have access to our bloodstream through the mouth.
Yep.
And that is creating all kinds of things. I mean, what I was reading about was like heart disease and diabetes and
Alzheimer's. I mean, it's all of it. There's IBS. I mean, what I was talking about at the beginning, it's systemic health is completely integrated with mouth health. And going backwards, nitric oxide is completely integrated with heart, lung, and brain health. And going back to your first point about, if you don't have any teeth, you can't chew, you don't look good, you got pain and sensitivity and so forth. But more importantly than that, it's that problem my mom was about to have, that if you have your own teeth, one of the extraordinary things is when you bite down on your teeth, there are these little tiny hairs that support teeth. And those hairs are like a trampoline edge, that there's like bungee cords. And as you bite onto your tooth, they compress. And when they compress, they send a signal to your brain. And when your teeth compress down, the signal sent to your brain releases something called orexin. And orexin is responsible for your ability to be spatially aware. In other words, where are you in space? Your eyesight focus and your cognitive function. It's basically your wake-up hormone. Where are you? Who are you? What do you see? And what are you doing? And so if you lose that, of course you lose so much capacity. And I think teeth are so pristine and so valuable that the first part of my book, my new edition of the book I wrote years ago, Kiss Your Dentist Goodbye, is actually to explain the value of pristine teeth. How are they made? And the way that they dissipate, all the think about what we do to it. We clamp down all this pressure every time we bite together. And the way they're designed better than a cathedral ceiling. They're so strong. Tooth enamel has a Mohs hardness number of 5. Steel has a Mohs hardness number of 4.5.
Wow.
So your tooth enamel is harder than steel. It's so resistant, and yet it's flexible. It's an unbelievable substance, and it restores itself continuously. All just like our skeleton of our, I think most of your athletes know that the skeleton repairs itself, that there are these bone cells. You told me you've had people talking about this, right? That your
Yep.
bones break down and then repair, and the whole point is to keep it in balance. Your teeth are identical. Every time you eat or drink, there's a design here where your teeth break down. Minerals are released in the acids of the foods that we eat. This saliva that we talked about that comes into your mouth right after you've been eating should be full of minerals that replenish all the minerals lost. Anything. It knows exactly where to go. They know exactly what to do. They regrow the crystals that have been damaged or lost. And so your teeth can be restored after every meal, providing you stop eating, drinking, sipping, snacking in between meals. That's really the biggest problem. Sipping diet sodas, sipping water. It doesn't matter what it is. You're diluting your saliva with water. You're polluting your saliva if it's something acidic or, a soda. And the problem for athletes is, gosh, you have to, on long distance, you've got electrolytes going on, you've got endurance, athletics. One thing that makes your mouth at more risk is actually low oxygen conditions. If you're an athlete, maybe you're a snowboarder up the mountains, you've got altitude problems. You're breathing, so you're drying the saliva on your teeth if you're, inhaling the air through your mouth.
Sleeping with your
So,
mouth open.
yeah, you're a swimmer, you've got chlorine going in your mouth that is damaging the bacteria in your mouth. Athletes are high risk.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. And I like to tell you that I have had 4 athletes in my family. I have Ironmen in my family. So I am well aware of the damage done by various forms of, um, athletic performance to teeth, but it doesn't have to cause damage. I'm just saying there's damage done, but there are ways to prevent the damage.
Well, so what I understood was that you can't avoid the damage, but you can repair it right away. And if you're always staying up with repairing the damage, then it's, the teeth are not looking damaged, they're not acting damaged, because you damage them a little, you repair them. You damage them a little, you repair them. It's the issue is when you, as you said, you've done things like it's medications or your mouth breathing or your um, sipping and you're diluting your saliva or you're putting acidic things in your mouth all the time. You're not getting enough healing time. And so it becomes very damaged. And now a little bit of repair is not enough.
That's right. I mean, it's again, I think athletes are the perfect people to talk with because your muscles do the same thing. I mean, this is the body's pretty much normal response, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Break them down. You get new, younger, stronger, better by allowing that to happen and follow it with the adequate support for good repair. And problems occur if you don't break them down enough. I mean, that's why don't be scared, but just understand it. I want people to be empowered. I don't want you drinking through a straw. I don't, because drinking through a straw is like trying to avoid the damage. It's like me saying, "Oh, I don't want to pick up a weight because I'm older and my bones might break down." And for goodness sake, the way I keep my bones stronger is to challenge them.
Right.
And it's the same with your teeth. You don't want straws. You don't want this. Just learn how to end a meal in such a way that you negate any more damage. And dentists for a decade now have been telling patients, don't brush your teeth straight after eating because after meals make your mouth acidic. Wait an hour before you clean your teeth. And why wait an hour? If you eat 3 or 4 times a day, that's 4 hours of damage. And
Right.
if you complete the meal, which is what I learned in Switzerland in 1970, that there are tooth protective foods.
Hmm.
These are specific foods that are non-acidic, often fibrous. They may have calcium in them, and they form a protection and a completion to the meal that leaves your mouth alkaline.
So it's sort of like a freshening thing, like celery, for example, would be like a freshening.
Celery is magnificent. It's magnificent.
That's great. But it neutralizes the acidity from the meal. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. It is fiber, it is alkaline, it's got the juices and the liquids in celery. Celery, of course, is going to go be digested, the minerals absorbed.
And the nitrates help you with your nitric oxide.
You got it. Celery is one of the most potent. If you buy a nitric oxide supplement, chances are it's mainly celery and beet. I wouldn't end a meal particularly with beet because of the coloration, but I would end the meal with celery, apples, um, even carrots. I know they have sugar in them, but it's so much fiber. A carrot is healthy to end a meal with.
Great.
Milk, cheese has actually had studies done to show it is karyostatic. Karyostatic means that if you had a cavity and you had a piece of cheese, it would help stop the cavity. It actually stops static being stopping, karyo being the caries, which is the decay process. They gave children little pieces, a cube of cheese after breakfast for, I don't know, a couple of years. One group of children, I think in Holland, where they have lots of, Dutch cheese. And those kids that had a little cube of cheese as they were getting on the bus or wherever they after school had far less, they had no decay, whereas the ones that didn't had some. I mean, they don't have a lot of decay in Holland generally, but it was minimized. Let's say that they had enough change to say that cheese is charismatic, and milk as well. And in the old days when farmers would, you drank milk that was straight from the farm, and not skim milk, because skim milk is more sugars. It's the wrong balance of fats. Avocado is another good protective food at the end of a meal. It's the fattiness of the food. So there are a number of foods, one of which, I mean, strawberries and raspberries are delicious, super great endings to a meal. And you would think that they weren't necessarily alkalizing, but they are. And they naturally contain this sugar that I'm so excited about, which is xylitol.
Really?
And so if you don't want to get Zellies, which are I wanted to make it again in Switzerland, take 2 little mints after meals 4 times a day. And I'm like, wow, that's easy. What is this stuff? Well, this is stuff that it actually comes from birch trees. And it's a sugar that alkalizes your mouth by actually pulling into your mouth a flow of saliva. So if you happen to have a dry mouth and you take some xylitol, it's not only tooth protective, but it makes your mouth watery with more minerals in it than you would have if you just had your resting saliva. So you get even more repair that way, which is why would I not love this as a dentist?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you're jumping ahead on me again. We'll get to the what can we do. We're still in this question of how does the mouth heal itself, and I think we've touched on it maybe enough already. But I wanted to hear about some ways that a person could tell that their mouth is not functioning as designed, that they're having problems with, somehow they're interfering with their body's effort to keep their mouth healthy, which is necessary for their whole body to be healthy.
Well, I think that's difficult because most dental problems become clinically visual about 15 years later. I mean, that's why I'm not against dentistry. You need somebody expert to go in there and say, wow, that looks like a cavity forming. But I don't want them then to do a treatment, which they think is a preventive treatment. They'll either put on a fluoride gel or varnish or sealant or filling. Let's just put a little filling in there, because then you mechanically ruin the structure of that tooth. I want to be notified that I have imminent danger. I like to have the Weather Channel tell me there's going to be a hailstorm tonight so I can park my car in the garage, right? I want dentistry to be that.
Yeah, well, but aren't there some things, like, if you've got bad breath, or maybe when you do nitric oxide test strips, your nitric oxide is low, that maybe is indicating that maybe your mouth is too dry, or things like that that maybe are leading indicators. You don't have to wait until you're drilling your teeth or you've
I
got
would tell
bleeding.
you that if at the age of 4 you had a cavity filled, chances are you've got disease in your mouth. You need to do something about it. It doesn't just go away. And so the biome of your mouth, the bacterial composition of your mouth is not come and go. It is woven into this biofilm that you live with for your life. 40% of adult biofilm shows genetically it was formed at the age of 4. So if you've had cavities in the past that were filled, you may think your teeth are fine. I would tell you, be very careful. If you don't want to listen to me, be very careful. And, I know that you can't really tell because, you see, I'm not a flosser. I have never used floss in my recommendations. And dentists don't like that in America. And I was pulled off a podium one time. And so I challenged these dentists. Let's have a competition. Let's see whose teeth are the cleanest, whose teeth are the best. And so 400 doctors and dentists, they were preventive cardiologists, hygienists, and dentists, were at this meeting in Dallas in 2015. And I was there. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't know they were going to do this, but they did it. Okay, Ellie, let's have a competition. And I had driven from Austin that morning. I had not specially cleaned my teeth because this has nothing to do with what you did this morning. This is what is the value of your biofilm? Is it healthy? And that takes years and decades.
It's like gut health.
It doesn't just happen in one morning. Yeah, your gut. Well, are you healthy or not? It depends on your gut health. It doesn't depend whether you washed your hands this morning. It's what have you done for your health overall for all these years. And so we tested our saliva. They took a salivary test and they gave points for every pathogen that they found, all of the bad bacteria that are possible in gum disease or that form plaque. And there really are only about 20 of those guys in a mouth. There are 800 potentially good bacteria. All right. So it's a question of how many bad bacteria do you have? That's what they're good at measuring. So they did that salivary test. They had a guy there with like an ultrasound, like you do for pregnant women, for babies, to look at the amount of calcification in your carotid artery. Because that's a signal of health, right?
Yeah.
And to see who had calcifications in their carotid artery. Then they took a blood test, A1C, CRP, inflammation. And they took a vitamin, what is your carotene and vitamin levels? They took a test for that too. And then they put all these together and the results came out. And I was 65. And most of these were young, 35, 40-year-old professionals.
Uh-huh.
I was an outlier with 98 out of 100%.
Wow.
Some of these guys had 50% carotid artery blockage. Almost all of them had pathogens. 70% of them had high levels of pathogens that needed treatment.
Despite all their flossing.
Yeah, I had dentists with A1C and CRP levels that were so high, they sent them to the cardiologist. Yeah. And the cardiologist tried everything and then came back to me and said, well, actually, one was the husband of a dentist. So he was continuously having cleanings. He was always flossing. I said, stop flossing for start. Stop having cleanings. Because pushing bacteria into your bloodstream is a reason that can cause stroke. It can cause elevated CRP. And within a month or two, I had this dentist and this husband of a dentist. I had their A1C and CRP levels down by mine.
Wow.
So what is oral health? Oral health is having it all in balance. And I'm not saying I'm the only person that's got it in the country, but I'm just saying, if you go to learn about weight loss and your educator is 200 pounds overweight, are you really sure that person understands weight loss?
Yeah, it shake your confidence.
I mean, that is my argument. And yet dentistry carries on because they are convinced how it is just fine. But if you talk to a financial consultant, they will tell you better save up for your dental costs in retirement. Just talk to one. Ask them. Ask a financial consultant, somebody who has nothing to do with dentistry. When you're budgeting, what do you budget for dental when people retire? Because surely you've had all that treatment done. Why would it get worse as you get older? Or do you think your gums age? Or do you think your teeth age? Do we think I mean, there's a little bit more fight, right? Our muscles do tend to waste away. We've got to work harder. but you don't have to just give up.
Right. Well, that's what we want to know about today. What can we do to fight back? Because unfortunately, there aren't any 4 or 6 year olds listening to us today who have every chance of doing it right the first time.
That's right.
I mean, everybody listening here, I mean, there'll be maybe there's a one or two who don't have any cavities or dental work. I mean, I've got 3 cavities, and I get
Good.
that from my grandma who died at 106 with all her teeth and no cavities. So
That's
I have good
perfect.
genes for that, I guess. And my nitric oxide is good. I figured that out with the help of another guest a year ago. But I don't think my oral health is ideal. I'm totally doing all the wrong things according to your system, and as well
Well,
as this general advice like don't be sipping. I'm like drinking tea all day long. There's like this week I tried to stop doing that. I tried to stop drinking my tea and my water all day long. I couldn't do it. I couldn't stop. So I'm so addicted to having something to sip on all day. It's going to be hard, but I will do it.
well, I think when you understand nitric oxide, I mean, we all want nitric oxide, right? I think everybody does. And if you get older, you rely on it in the mouth. So, this idea that in the first hour after eating, if you just think about your teeth getting harder and stronger, but you've got to wait 60 to 90 minutes for the value of what you just ate to be in your mouth. It's worth waiting, guys, for your heart health, your lung health, and your brain health. And I do want to add, though, that you can give yourself some grace because saliva has the circadian rhythm, which you're well aware of from the point of view of waking and sleeping. And the circadian rhythm with saliva is the pH of saliva, the value of saliva, the quality of it. And it actually is at its peak at midday. Wherever you are when the sun's overhead, that's when your saliva is optimal. So if you have lunch, it's that 2 hours after lunch that you want to really discipline yourself about. In the morning, if you just didn't really eat that much and you didn't go that long, maybe it doesn't matter. I just don't want you sipping continuously because I don't think that's good hydration advice either. I think overhydration and correct hydration, I'm not the expert in that, but I think we've had it very messed up for a long time. I think most people will agree now that that old idea of drinking what people drink and it's one size fits all is nuts. But, let's drink the bolus of liquid, in sessions and maybe try and have a little break. But definitely looking at what you're eating, your diet, your digestive health, I don't have to talk to athletes about circulation. All the things that we do for health will make your mouth healthier. But if you have a dirty toothbrush, when you stuck in your gym bag, yeah, you're putting in your mouth potentially very harmful bacteria. My son-in-law was an international traveler. He came to me, hey, Ellie, my dentist says I got periodontal disease. What's that about? I knew he traveled all the time. I said, where's your toothbrush? Oh, I leave it in my bag. He leaves it in his travel bag. People leave them in their gym bag. I dated a guy one time who had his toothbrush in the console of his dirty old truck. I mean, that is not oral health, guys. It's a transmissible disease and it grows on damp toothbrush bristles. Having a clean toothbrush is paramount. Having the correct toothbrush is paramount. No, I do not recommend electric, sonic, expensive toothbrushes. I recommend a specific kind of flossing toothbrush, which does dual action of flossing and brushing at the same time. And it gives your gums a gorgeous massage. I don't have anything to do with this company. I used to make my own toothbrush, which was just like this one, But it was at a time when I wasn't very well known and I didn't sell enough, and the company wouldn't make my toothbrush anymore. And at a dental meeting, I met this guy, and I've promoted his toothbrush ever since. I think he's $1 million or more company now. He has never called me up to thank me once. I have nothing with this company, but his brush is beautiful. And if you have a smaller mouth, if you're a lady with a smaller mouth, they make a youth smaller brush. And what I want you to do is really get up on the gums and give it a great massage. It's about gum massage all around your mouth, inside, outside, at the back, up front, under your lips, around. And then I combine this massage with correct liquids in my system. And I don't know if you want me to talk about that now or later, but all
Yeah,
of that.
in just a minute, I want to cover it in detail, but first I wanted to talk about just sort of the basics that, anybody who knows the mouth well would agree. And then we can cover the details of your program, which would include some things that everybody would agree are good and other things that some people wouldn't agree with. And you can explain your rationale for why that has worked for your patients in the past, which is why you
Sure.
advocated in the future. But the high level stuff, I think I know I'm probably driving people crazy because I keep wanting to come back to this because this was the thing that just blew my mind. This business of your mouth will heal itself if you'll just get out of the way and let it do it. And that means stop putting stuff in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Let it be by itself a lot of the time so that it will heal.
Mm-hmm.
And so this business of, how to have a healthy mouth, I think it starts with, of course, you got to clean it. And we're going to get into your details about that. You got to clean it regularly. But the other is you want your mouth closed and empty most of the time.
Mm-hmm. And once you start doing that, you get it. Even if you have Sjogren's, I have an athlete who's a Sjogren's patient, which means they have no salivary glands. So she had sipped water believing she had no saliva, and she didn't. And if she would go on, her, 5K or 10K runs, she'd have to take a whole bunch of water bottles and prepare herself for all of this. And one day, somehow or other, soon after we had started working together, she forgot her water supply. And she's like on mile 2, and she's ready, she told me, to stop because she was like, I forgot my water. Or something happened, or it leaked out. I can't remember what it was, but she had no water to drink. And she could hear Dr. Ellie saying, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just give it a try. Just go for it. And so she completed the race without water. And she said at mile 3, the mile after she was panicking, she actually felt the saliva come in her mouth. And I felt like that was such a cool example of what we do. We suppress what our body, it may be difficult for the body to do that, but it will do it if we give it a minute. Give it a minute. And that's just hear me saying that to you when you're, I think I'm thirsty. Just give it a minute. Give it time. And do realize that the afternoon is so valuable. The afternoon hours. Now, you talk about cleaning teeth. I want to say I don't clean my teeth. But I'm not saying that to be pedantic. I'm saying that because the whole process of this thing that we have been trained to clean our teeth should be to care for our teeth or prepare them so that when we go to bed at night, they're going into the worst time for their health. When you go to sleep at night, your salivary flow, the saliva flow into your mouth, slows down to virtually stop. So here, all of a sudden, we've been saying how our saliva keeps our teeth healthy. If you have a kind of a short upper lip and your front teeth get dry, to keep them healthy, you need to lick your front teeth. You need to move that saliva around your mouth if you possibly can. But while you're asleep at night, there's a really good chance, especially for older gentlemen, that you'll sleep with your mouth open. And as the air comes in and out, drying your teeth, that is an awful time for teeth. If you have acid reflux, that acid in your mouth is going to just dissolve your teeth away while you're sleeping. So nighttime is the nightmare time for teeth. And that is why I feel it's so important to educate people from the time that they have their first adult tooth, preparing your teeth so they're not going to be damaged while you're asleep at night and you have no help. Your body, your mouth is helpless at night. You've got to help it. You've got to prepare it. And you try to keep it moist and prepared as much as we can. So cleaning your teeth, if we're going to call it that, I would call it a spa treatment. You know, like if you're a woman and you've got dry skin, you'll put your moisturizer on before you go to sleep at night, especially if you live in a climate that's very dry. You know, you're trying to protect your mouth before you go to sleep at night. It's not, oh, mom said clean my teeth. No, we've got to take care of them. We've got to give them some help.
Right. And so 5 minutes of work before bed gives you 8 hours of protection.
It actually does more than that. If you do it with the right products, it's almost, and I tell some of my patients, it's like driving your car into the garage, sort of spraying it with this magic spray. And while you're asleep, those dings and dents from the shopping cart and the little paint scrape on the front and whatnot actually repair themselves.
Nice.
I mean, what more could you ask for? What is that worth? What you do at night before you go to bed at night will make more difference than anything else. And I mean, right now there's the top selling natural mouth rinse in Whole Foods has a pH of 3.5. If you know anything about pH, you know that is acidic, and you don't want to do that before you go to bed at night.
Yeah. Drinking a Diet Coke right before bed, my teeth get soft.
Yeah, or even a sparkling water or wine or beer, or your kids eat a candy. All of those things. Why are they so bad at night? If you did that at a meal time, an hour or two before bed, it doesn't really matter, especially if you end the meal with a tooth protective food. And then you go to bed doing this repair thing before you go to sleep at night. While you're asleep, your car's in the garage repairing itself. Your teeth are in your mouth repairing themselves. So you see the delicate balance of understanding and the tiny things, the little slip-ups that we make. How much difference if we do that repetitively?
Yeah, if you screw up once a month, no big deal. If it's every day of your life.
Yeah. So you want to know what everybody can do wherever they are in any place at any age. And I would say you're 100% correct. Not eating and drinking as much as you can between meals without making it so uncomfortable that you're uncomfortable. I think this should be fun. And then realizing the value times, most important, and the difficult time for your saliva, the most difficult being at night. So try to figure out some way to prepare your mouth before you go to sleep at night. And be aware that certain mouth rinses, I mean, Biotene, I think they've changed it now, but if you have dry mouth, I would not particularly recommend that mouth rinse. But years ago, I would actively tell you not to use it because it was acidic. Here's somebody with a dry mouth rinsing before bed with an acidic mouthwash. What are they thinking about? But you see, even the companies don't know the science. They don't teach home care to dental students. There is nobody guarding the hen house, which is the patients, except the people who make money out of treatment. I mean, think about it. Who cares what you do to your teeth? And I mean, I say who cares? Of course, dentists care about their patients, but they are not trained in all the chemistry and the biology of every product. They haven't got time to know that there are 5 kinds of Crest toothpaste. One I would recommend, and the rest of them I would advise you not to use. So it's so complicated. And if you really want a one size fits all, the best thing ever was back 2000 or so years ago, and still to this day in many countries in Middle East and Africa, they cut a stick, a twig, off a tree called the toothbrush tree. And it's called a siwak stick in Africa, and it's called a miswak, miswak stick in Middle East. And this stick, which you can buy on Amazon, so there are lots of choices, and don't ask me which is the best because I have no idea. But I think it's cool, and I tell people who are going camping, if they want to try using this, this is a very tried and tested. And more than that, the World Health Organization studied this stick. And what you do is you fray the top end of the stick so that you have like a little round toothbrush at the end of it. And you literally massage your gums. Remember I was saying how important gum massage is? So you use this miswak stick to massage your gums all the way around. They're very methodical and mechanical about doing that with this stick on the inside, all around. And, you know, I did a TikTok about miswak sticks a year or so ago. I think it was, I don't know if it was 7 million people. It was so many responses. And not a single person said, oh, I tried that and it didn't work. There was so much endorsement for it. Yeah, my grandma lived to 98 and she kept all her teeth. And, you know, the difficulty now is how do we know a real miswak from a fake once it's on Amazon? I don't know. And, you know, which kind is better? The one that the World Health Organization did their study on actually has the same ingredients in it that are in the toothpaste and 2 of the mouth rinses that I recommend. Plus, it contains a resin that's sort of similar. It stimulates saliva, just like xylitol. So if I had to say that my system was in a stick, I'd say go use the miswak stick.
So if you don't have a miswax tree, then let's use your system. So tell us your system.
Well, this was based, again, to understand it, it's based on skincare. Because I grew up in England at a time when women were not dentists, I was sent to a boarding school that was focused on getting women into professions that they couldn't get into. And so I went to boarding school. I was at boarding school for 9, pretty much the whole year, 10 months of the 10, 11 months of the year. And we studied 6 days a week, went to school on Saturdays and learned physics, chemistry, biology. And they were very vicious and they were very serious. And, it was very stressful. And I had acne. And they told me that it was dirty skin. And all the kids with acne were lined up in front of a sink given a horsehair brush and some ivory soap. And we were told to scrub our faces. And I can tell you, I hated my skin. I didn't want to be dirty. And I scrubbed and I scrubbed. And my skin used to peel and itch and bleed. And I'd scrub it some more. And it would itch and bleed and peel more. And I was miserable and I felt dirty and I felt demoralized. And it was really psychologically traumatic. And then one day, years after doing this, year after year with all these kids, I was walking through a department store in London, Selfridges, and a girl in a white coat happened to be the beginning of the Clinique. For anyone who understands the cosmetic world, it was Clinique's first venture. And she called over to me and like, hey, honey, would you like me to assess your skin? Oh, she said, you got very sensitive skin. You need this lotion for cleansing, and then you put this toner on to just open up the pores, and then you put this moisturizer on your skin, and it's very light and it's very delicate. And it took like 4 days. And my years of discomfort and pain and suffering and agony and scarring vanished. And when I was in my 20s and 30s, people would actually stop me in the street sometimes and say, "Oh, Ellie, your skin is so gorgeous." Well, they didn't know my name, honey, whoever. I mean, I literally was stopped often because of my gorgeous skin. And so this happening in my 20s after that event, and my mother having her teeth about to be extracted, and I'm saying, I know she shouldn't go to the dental school because they don't have a clue. Because I had just done that course, they didn't have a clue. They would cut the gums and they would do this cleaning, and the gums would just get lower and lower and lower until the teeth either fell out or they took them out. So I told my mom, we've got to find a way to somehow get your, it's like my skin. And so I looked for a cleanser, the equivalent of a delicate toner, and a moisturizer for teeth. And I know that sounds weird, but that's what I was looking for. And the friend of my landlord was a guy who made a mouthwash that patients were supposed to rinse with before you did dental treatment on them. It came in like a half-gallon Clorox bottle. And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of a good cleanser. Obviously, it cleans before we treat teeth. It was designed to do that. And what it actually does is it reacts with the saliva in the mouth. It travels down pockets and everywhere that saliva goes. And it turns to oxygen in this interaction with saliva. And the more acidic your saliva, the more oxygen you get. So if you do this right after a meal, you don't have to so much worry about that tooth protective food thing, because even if your mouth's acidic, you're just going to get nice oxygen happening. So I started this idea of something that you would rinse with before you clean your teeth. And that's really a different idea. And, it took a while for people to get into that. But if you think about it, you can now go straight from a meal and clean your teeth.
Instead of waiting the 30 minutes.
30 minutes or an hour, and let your teeth be under acidic attack for an hour. Exactly. So this is a huge bonus. The other thing is, once you've completed my system, I am very confident that you're leaving your teeth protected and actually in harmony with nature's mineralization. So you've got a synergistic relationship between what you're doing to your mouth in preparation for then not eating and drinking for an hour or so. So I don't want you to get out of bed, clean your teeth, and then go have breakfast. It's like having a beautiful oils on your skin and then you take a shower. Don't do that. So I feel that balancing the bacteria in your mouth is one component of mouth health. And that is done by nutrition, body health, exercise, sleep, all those things, along with mouth resting, this period between meals. And I think that alone, if you're ending your meal with a tooth protective food, you will balance your mouth health. If you have already got cavities, if you've already got gum disease problems, and you need, or you want to improve the color of your teeth or strengthen them, or you've been told you've got cracks in your teeth or cavities about to form, or if you've got kids who are just getting new teeth coming in, all those times, or if you're pregnant, or if you're stressed, or if you're older, which most of your people are, at least they're all the 40 years old, right? Then you might want to give your teeth a little boost. And the rest of my system is designed to do that. The toothpaste that I recommend, so this first mouth rinse, by the way, is called Closis in America. It's called Ultradex in Canada and the UK. I don't know how available it is elsewhere. It's available in Australia and New Zealand because I have a distributor who tried it and was so impressed he started bringing it into the country 2 decades ago.
I got it. Well, we have closest, so I just bought some.
Okay, perfect. And it should be the ultra sensitive, so it has no flavor. It tastes like water. And you put it in your mouth and you feel nothing. Some people say they actually can feel it going around their teeth. It turns to oxygen if you've got pockets. It turns to oxygen in the pockets. And the bacteria that are periodontal bacteria, the gum disease bacteria that are so dangerous, are all anaerobic. So this is my kickback to periodontal pathogens. Let's give them a dose of oxygen. And after that, you would go into the toothbrushing stage of my system. I recommend this flossing kind of toothbrush that's very dense and quite resilient. And I recommend you wet it and then put on it some of the original Crest toothpaste. It's the original formula that was formulated back in the 60s. And it's the only toothpaste ever that has randomized clinical trials to show that it heals cavities before they start. Now, if you just let that sink in, that it heals cavities before they start, what is a cavity? How does a cavity start? Well, a cavity begins with an area of the tooth being demineralized. The minerals get taken out of it by the acids produced by plaque bacteria. That's how a cavity forms. The plaque bacteria actually excrete acids, and the acids dissolve your teeth. And so this toothpaste remineralizes teeth. And today, remineralizing it, the word remineralize came around about 10 years ago. They were selling remineralizing toothpaste. I can't think what it was called now, but something min, pro-min, and now there's nanohydroxyapatite and all these toothpaste claiming to do the same thing. Your $1.96 Crest has been proven. I mean, I'm a scientist. There are randomized clinical trials. I can assure you most of the rest of these ideas are marketing, very brilliant marketing. And in some cases, I think the products they're recommending are actually quite dangerous. I go as far as to say they're dangerous.
Now, Crest has got fluoride in it, and that's going to be objectionable to some people, but we're going to get into that.
Okay. Well, let's carry on because I can defend the fluoride positioning that I have. To say that, okay, so you massage your gums, you brush the toothpaste over your teeth so that any potential weak areas will remineralize, and you give them a really good brushing. The whole thing is a very vigorous, enjoyable. The gum massage is creating lymphatic movement and stimulating wound healing where you need wounds, like you've got a gum pocket or something. And you do it all around. There's no time frame that I'm going to give you. You don't have to do it for 2 minutes if it doesn't take 2 minutes. But if you do it well, you'll have to think about what you're doing. And then when you're finished, you rinse. You spit out the big glob of toothpaste and you rinse the debris now out of your mouth with Listerine. Cool mint Listerine or the original. And people throw their hands in horror because they think it's a very strong, powerful mouthwash, and it's not.
Antiseptic, right?
No, it's actually scientifically classified as an essential oil mouth rinse. An antiseptic ideally should be classified as something that will kill surface bacteria, and chlorhexidine does. I do not recommend chlorhexidine. I don't want to kill surface bacteria everywhere in the mouth because of those special ones on the back of your tongue. But essential oils, there's eucalyptus, menthol, and thymol that are the active ingredients in Listerine. And the dilution of Listerine is such that it will target one kind of bacteria, little round seeds, the little round cells with a hard coat. And they're called Streptococcus mutans. You've probably heard of strep sore throat. Well, these are strep mutans. They're very similar. And these are little round bacteria that are the precursors of plaque. When they land on your tooth, they get in there and they stick to your tooth. They multiply, they form layers. And when the layer is dense enough to be sort of really quite thick, that if you have that thick mass of plaque bacteria, that's what you pull off your teeth. That's what plaque is. It's a mass of bacteria. And the cool thing about Listerine is that at least those two formulations, I'm not going to talk about all the new ones they've created because I can't keep up with it. I don't want to even look at most of those. But all these ones that I recommend do is melt the outer coat of the Listerine. I mean, the outer coat of the strep mutans so that it incapacitates the plaque bacteria. It's so targeted. It's just beautiful. It doesn't delve into the biofilm and kill every kind of bacteria in your mouth. That's an absolute myth. And the alcohol in it's less than 20%. It has no effect on killing bacteria. I mean, most of us lived through COVID when they had hand sanitizers that were alcoholic, they were alcohol based. It had to be 70 to 80%, and your hands had to be dry and clean. Well, it may be news to you, but your hands, your mouth is wet and sort of slimy. So, the alcohol, you've got more alcohol in a beer than you probably have from the Listerine. So it's not damaging the biofilm of your mouth. It's simply targeting 99.9% of the bacteria that cause CAUSE. That's the really important word because it's the bacteria that form biofilm. Form infected biofilm, form plaque. So I don't know if I've described that. I've slipped a couple of times about how I said it, but plaque is infected biofilm. And plaque is created by these strep mutans, which are little foci, little round spheres. And the essential oils in Listerine are beautiful at targeting them. So what's the downside of Listerine? Well, there's more good in Listerine because the eucalyptus helps your gums to grow. It's an essential oil. It's good for growing gums. So what's bad about Listerine? Well, it's acidic. It's really, really acidic. It has a pH of 4.2. So that's why I want the toothpaste on your teeth to protect them from the acidity of the Listerine. And then I want you to wash the Listerine off your mouth, out of your mouth, with the final rinse, which is a 0.05 sodium fluoride. It's ACT.
Mm.
And that's the sequence. And if you think of it as cleanse, tone, moisturize, it makes kind of sense.
It's starting to sound like some of these things would actually be bad on their own, but it's only by putting them together that it works.
Brilliant. That is it. It is a synergistic method of using over-the-counter products that pretty much anyone in America can access for relatively little money. It doesn't matter how much mouth rinse you use. Closest is the most expensive. It's probably about $14 for a jar, a bottle. I think somewhere between $11 and $14, depending. So it's kind of expensive. It'll last a month. But if you want to use half a capful, it'll be just as good. But just make sure, don't follow the box because the box directions are not mine. The company, the guy that first formulated it for dental offices, he died. And in the divorce, it all changed hands and different people and different companies. And they're telling you to use it after you've cleaned your teeth. So don't do that, or you'll lose all the benefits of the closest.
Good. Okay. Well, I have a bunch of questions about other things that we can hit when you have gotten through your system.
Well, basically, the system use it twice a day. Always use it last thing at night, right before sleeping. No debate. It will change everything. You'll wake up with a fresh breath, fresh mouth. There's no such thing as tongue scraping because you don't have a film on your tongue. Your tongue looks pink and happy and healthy. When people started talking about tongue scraping, because my parents lived in India, I'm very familiar with Ayurvedic oil pulling and tongue scraping, and they haven't got much there that can help them. But why would I tongue scrape? My tongue looks like my tongue looks now, and I wake up in the morning. I'm not afraid to show people my tongue in the morning. It's great. And I'm sorry if your tongue's coated in white stuff, get going on my program as soon as you can, because
Okay, well, there's a sign. If you feel like you need to brush or scrape your tongue, then
yeah.
you need to follow the system. Okay, well, that's good. Let's dip into the fluoride question a bit. I mean, it's gotten crazy. I mean, I think fluoride has always been a little controversial, but lately it has gotten totally crazy. And so people will be afraid of fluoride in Crest toothpaste.
Why?
Well, it's a toxin that the government is put in the water to kill people.
Okay. Well, the problem is, of course, it's a long story. I've just launched a 1-hour video on YouTube about my position on fluoride and I was nervous to do it. I didn't think anyone will ever watch it because it's an hour. And I talked at length with my team. Should I do this in small bits or what? Anyway, we put it up as an hour because that's the story. It's long. And I'm personally involved because I gave fluoride as a vitamin, as a supplement to my kids. My first 3 kids were born 77, 79, and 80. And in 1984, when I was completing my pediatric specialty in Rochester, New York, my oldest daughter erupted her front teeth. And they came through gnarly, brown, ugly, disgusting color front teeth. I'm like, what? What happened? And then my next daughter's teeth came through because they were only born a year apart, just over a year apart, with white blotches all over her teeth. And if you know anything about fluoride, what happened was I gave them fluoride from the time they started, drinking and eating every day a fluoride supplement. Well, I was so furious because I'd followed the recommendations about fluoride. I thought it was a vitamin that you needed to have beautiful, white, healthy teeth. And here are my kids with damaged teeth. And I'll add into that right now that despite doing that, my oldest daughter is brilliant. She was a Plan 2 UT scholarship student. So I don't know about this neurologic damage, but it sure damaged her teeth. And it damaged her thyroid, and she had trouble conceiving. But the thing about the pineal gland, which is another thing they say, I mean, she's incredibly empathetic and wonderful. And so is my other daughter. And the same thing, she has great empathy. She's brilliant academically. She has these damaged teeth, but she has a damaged thyroid like her older sister, and they both had trouble conceiving. So there's definitely a systemic impact of giving your kids fluoride under the age of 6 or 7. And I gave them the recommended amount that would be in drinking water today before they were 7. And so as a student at the University of Rochester, as a graduate student there, I made my thesis on fluoride. And I spent hours in the minor library. This is before the internet now. We're talking about 1984. I pulled every book out about fluoride. And there's a book out there called The Fluoride Deception. And when it came out, it was pretty much a copy of my thesis, I think. It's exactly correct. There was this whole fracas where the government got wound up with the Aluminum Company of America, and the Aluminum Company of America used to use their byproduct fluoride as a pest control product for farmers. But when better pest control came along, they just dumped the fluoride in the water around the Aluminum Company factory. It was wartime. It was the 1940s. And obviously, aluminum was going to be used to make the planes. So they didn't want to close down the Aluminum Company of America. That would have been devastating. So they came up with this brilliant idea, combined with the Carnegie Institute, which was basically owned by the stockholders in Alcoa, that they would use this byproduct fluoride in water to bring the levels of water to a level where there would be minimal disruption of teeth, and the teeth would not have cavities in them. Because what happens if a child, you see, your adult teeth grow in the jawbone of a baby between birth and 7 years old. That is the only time you can get fluorosis. And what fluorosis is the fluoride circulating the body and attacking the ameloblast cells. That's what they're called, ameloblasts, that actually form enamel of the permanent teeth. Baby teeth are all formed in utero. They have nothing to do with this. So your baby teeth may be beautiful, which my kids were, but then the adult teeth, the enamel gets damaged as it's forming because the cells are dead. And without a cell, you've got voids. And the void in this glass enamel shows up because the light is not bouncing off the glass. It shows up as brown and weird and different colors. So that's what I did to my kids. And I discovered it in 1984. And I would have become probably a very staunch anti-fluoridationist, right? You're a mom who's just poisoned her kids.
Mm.
But what I knew, because I'd been a dentist for over 10 years, prescribing this toothpaste and this mouth rinse regimen that my mom had used, and the end of the story of my mom was that she kept her teeth till she died at 95. Same teeth, 50 years, and no dementia.
Right.
So I couldn't give up the idea after 10 years that all fluoride is terrible. So I wrestled with it and then realized it's not about drinking it. We don't have to drink it. Nobody has to drink it. We have to apply it. You don't drink sunscreen, right? I mean, think about it. There are lots of things that we don't have to drink. And the fact is, you do drink. If you're drinking green tea, I hate to tell you, but there's lots of fluoride in tea because there's lots of fluoride in the soil. And I actually recommend people shouldn't drink more than 2 or 3 cups of tea a day. I am very sensitive to how much tea people drink. I would not drink commercial iced tea for the same reason. It's got 7 parts per million fluoride in most of the ordinary, not if you brew it yourself at home, maybe less, but commercially, can you imagine they brew it for strong and as long as possible to get the most value? You've got 7 parts per million because tea leaves absorb fluoride from the soil in which they grow. And it's something about the tea plant. It concentrates the fluoride in the leaves.
Right.
So there's a lot of fluoride in tea. There's fluoride in wine. There's fluoride in grapes. There's fluoride in raisins. Lots of fluoride in raisins.
Okay.
So it isn't that you must never, ever touch a raisin or drink wine again, but just realize, and actually fluoride is good for our skeleton to some amount, but it's not, we don't want to be poisoning little kids by putting it in our drinking water, because the most likely people to be harmed are the low-income children, right?
Right.
So that's my position on fluoride. You have to know the concentration. You have to keep it in moderation if you're consuming it. Topically, the same. I don't want strong fluoride, none of those gels or varnishes or, not unless there's a really good reason. But if you use the toothpaste I recommend, because it's got lots of other ingredients as well that are beneficial, and the mouthwash that I recommend, the benefits of topical application you will get without the systemic problems. And I say, I've used my system now for almost 50 years. And I look at my kids and my grandkids. Nobody has calcified pineal glands. Nobody has thyroid issues. My two youngest children, by the way, I didn't give them fluoride while they were growing up. And they have beautiful teeth because they do my system now. But I don't want children under 6 doing my system or using a fluoride toothpaste.
Right.
Because kids eat toothpaste. And if you eat toothpaste under 6, you're getting a dose of it. So keep your kids away from fluoride until they're older. And then as an adult, just keep it under control. Just don't be afraid of it, but just don't drink excess amounts of it.
Yeah. Okay. And in your system that you've been using forever now, how's your nitric oxide?
Beautiful. For a 75-year-old lady, I'll take anyone on. No, I've done it on TikTok. I've done it online. I mean, it's what you have to realize is you have to wait 90 minutes after a meal or after cleaning your teeth before you do the test.
Right. And the test is these little strips that you put your saliva on and it turns pink or light.
That's right.
Or
I have those, and I do test my nitric oxide levels.
Okay.
And if you do it right after you clean your teeth or right after you rinse your mouth, you won't get the right results. You're compromising the test. I'm trying to think of an analogy, but if you simply, and I did this on YouTube, I showed my nitric oxide test, okay, and it came out exceptionally good, or pretty. I mean, I think it was the second pinkest color.
Mm-hmm.
Just so happened I was wearing that color lipstick that day, so somebody was laughing about that, but it really was that test.
Yeah.
But then I took a glass of Evian water and I drank it. I put it in my mouth and drank it. And then I retested. Because you see, any liquid in your mouth washes your mouth.
Yeah.
So a mouthwash is either a liquid that you put in your mouth and spit out, or that you put in your mouth and drink. And as you wash your mouth, you take with that liquid some of these denitrifying bacteria. So my test, immediately after my good test, after simply drinking Evian water, came out looking bad.
Right. Not many nitrites in Evian water, I guess.
Well, you're washing away the denitrifying bacteria. You're not getting the reaction that occurs on the back of your tongue.
Right.
And so this thing that mouthwash causes nitric oxide depletion is baloney. I mean, and the people who are going around the internet saying this, there is a very good study that was done taking plasma levels, even showing that, Listerine used as a mouthwash has no different effect from the effect of water. It's just what I'm saying. Any liquid that you wash around your mouth is going to have an effect.
Right.
What you have to do is wash your mouth or clean your teeth or eat your meal and then wait 90 minutes to take your nitric oxide test.
Right. Awesome.
And for an athlete, that's an important also. I mean, if you're really going to go in a race and you want your maximum nitric oxide levels, you may want to eat and drink and clean your teeth an hour-ish before you get to the start line, right?
Nitric oxide is also useful for, sexual function and having
All of that.
healthy cardiovascular system. I mean, everything. So, yeah.
All of that. So you might want to clean your teeth and do this whole mouthwash system and everything an hour before or so, 90 minutes before you go off wherever you go to bed or whatever it is.
Right.
I mean, just think about this. I know this is getting very pedantic, but your guys, I mean, I'm in the nitric oxide world. I get it. I understand its consequences.
Yeah.
And you can support yourself with diet, nutrition. The supplements do work. They're very effective. I personally don't take the supplements. I am a big celery eater. I add celery to stuff and beets. And
I just came back from the grocery store, by the way, and I bought 2 things of celery. So it'll be celery every day for sure.
That's great.
And instead of putting it in my meal, I'm going to eat it at the end to
You
neutralize
see?
the acid.
That's worth my while just being here.
Okay, but hey, we've really gone way over on time here. But I've cut you off a few times when you were trying to talk about xylitol, and I don't think you got into it at the end of your system. So tell us about xylitol. When is that done as a part of your system? Why the heck does that even work? Because it tastes just like sugar. And then tell our audience how they can find you online.
Well, xylitol is this tooth protective food. You eat it at the end of a meal or after a drink or something. Suppose you get up in the morning, you tell me you don't have breakfast, and you want to do the complete mouth care system after lunch. Maybe you think that's a better time to do it. You have to figure out, I want you to use the complete mouth care system, ideally twice a day, at a time when you won't eat or drink for a couple of hours afterwards. If you eat and drink outside of that, you need to protect your teeth immediately after a meal. And xylitol is a beautiful way to do that. What xylitol does is it feeds the good bacteria in your mouth. The one thing you won't get from celery, you'll get an alkalizing, you'll get the setting up the stage for very good conditions. But literally, xylitol feeds the good bacteria. You get a boost in the numbers of good bacteria in your mouth. And 1 or 2 mints, that's all you need. My mints are 0.5 gram, so you want 1 gram, ideally like 5 times a day. That's proven to be kind of the sweet spot. 5 times. You don't take a whole bunch. You just take a very, very little bit.
But not drinking anything afterwards.
Ideal, exactly. And it works in harmony with everything else to, as you see, it protects your mouth from because it alkalizes your mouth. It stimulates a flow of saliva. It feeds the good bacteria. And it actually feeds plaque bacteria. But because it's a 5-carbon sugar, it looks like sugar, it tastes like sugar, but it is the opposite of sugar. It's 5 carbons and it cannot be used by the plaque that uses sugar. And instead, the plaque bacteria take it in, but they can't process it. And they end up going into something that's called a futile cycle. They go round and round in circles, and they fall off your teeth. So the next time you clean your teeth, you'll find that you remove more plaque and your teeth feel cleaner than they've ever felt before. And when you finally go to the dentist, they'll say, "Good job flossing, you've done a wonderful job here." And just bob your head up and down, because honestly, dentists in America have never come across xylitol. Now, I came across it in the 70s. It's been used since the 60s in countries like Finland and Denmark, where currently in Denmark, the average person has 1/4 of a tooth decayed across the whole country per person. I mean, what would American dentistry do if that was the case? And in Finland, they've been handing out xylitol in preschool since the 60s, I mean, 60 years now. And, it's incredibly protective and effective from the time children start eating. I gave all my grandkids, this seminar, and they would go to bed at night with 2 mints right before they went to bed at night after brushing their teeth. When they were in the years before they could use the complete mouth care system, I'd give them the mints. They would play at brushing their teeth, but you actually just give them these little mints, and while they're sleeping at night, it's feeding the good bacteria. I mean, it's so cool. And that's really the value of xylitol. Now, some people will tell me they can't eat xylitol. It upsets their stomach. And that is usually somebody who's already not used to eating fiber, because xylitol is an insoluble fiber that feeds the bacteria that produce butyrate in your gut. Now, that may sound like double Dutch to some people, but butyrate is a really important lining, like almost like a mucus lining in your digestive tract and your lower gut. And xylitol is very helpful for that. So what I tell people who say they can't eat it is maybe work on getting your gut healthy. I recommend certain immune health probiotics that I know work really well. And then once you've done that, try very slowly, almost like as if you had an allergy. Just have 1 mint 3 times a day for a month.
Right.
And then maybe you try 1 mint 5 times a day for a month, and work up your fiber foods at the same time. And you may find that you really change a lot of health problems that way.
Oh, that reminds me of a question that I promised I would ask, and I haven't. And that is, you've mentioned probiotics, but I know that there are products out there for oral probiotics. Do you advocate for that?
I think it's a marketing thing. I think we have very inadequate evidence of it working. I was at a microbiome conference and sat next to a world scientist involved in skincare. They actually wanted to take me out for dinner, and I couldn't go. So I said, here, why don't you take my book with you and read it on the way home? And this was my other book, which is a bit more scientific. It's called Mouth Care Comes Clean. And he took this book with him and read it on the plane, and actually sent me an email afterwards saying, wow, the mouth biome is so like the skin biome. And we know you can't rub a probiotic on your skin and change the flora. That's not how it works. Our gut, there are ways to change the way the bacteria in the gut are, but in the mouth, they're far too static.
Okay.
I would, only as a last resort, would I do that.
Well, Dr. Ellie, thank you very much. This was amazing, more so than I even expected. Thank you for all of your time. Tell our audience how they can find you, find your products, find your books online.
Well, there's lots of different ways. I have a website, which is Dr. Ellie, DRELLIE.com. And on that website, you can get a downloadable booklet if you want to, so that, you can do this system and go and buy your own products. I always recommend people actually buy a kit. We sell a kit of these over-the-counter products so that you will make sure that you have the right kind of Closes and Listerine and Axe, because there are so many different formulations. Get the right ones the first time, and then you can, then you'll be able to go to the store with the empty packet, go to Walmart and get your toothpaste for $1.95 the next time you need it, which may not be for 6 months. And so I do recommend the kit so that you get started with the Zellies, with the xylitol, you get all those things. Now, in the kit, we do put a coupon for my boot camp, which is a video boot camp, where I'll answer questions. If you have more questions, that's probably the best way to get me is through the boot camp, because I mean, I get thousands of questions from everybody all the time, every day.
And the website is chock full of information that's useful.
Yeah. And then after 20 years, I wrote my book, Kiss Your Dentist Goodbye. Took me about 10 years while my kids were still little, and now they're middle agers. So it was a long time ago. And it was published 2004. And recently, a publisher came along and said he'd like to republish it. And in the process of doing that, we completely rewrote Kiss Your Dentist Goodbye. And we've written it with all the 20 years of all those questions that have ever been asked to me. So I think my book, if you're a reader, you would enjoy. But just get the kit and start and try it. Try it for in between a dental visit. And if you're told you have a cavity that needs filling, delay it. So ask if you could delay it for 2 months. Would it be really terrible to delay that cavity filling for 2 months or 3 months? And start using my system and see if you can reverse the cavity.
Nice.
That's what I tell people. If you've been told you need a deep cleaning and it's going to cost you $2,000, I've had people do this. They asked if they could delay. They used my system. One woman got back $5,000. She didn't give it to me, but actually it's not once. It's happened a couple of times, and I've never got the money back. But this is what I offer people. I'm not in this. I don't get anything from any of these companies. I have my own xylitol company, but often people will buy other products. I think mine's the best, but if you like the flavor of somebody else's gum or whatever, go for it.
Awesome. Well, that was great. Thank you. I really recommend people pay attention to this. This is one of the pillars of health that, at least for myself, I have been ignoring. So
Well,
I'm on this.
I think it's great. And I go before you. I came from a horrible parentage lineage of terrible teeth, early extractions. I mean, terrible, everything in England. I mean, I came from the worst. And I am now, I'll tell you, my last dental cleaning was 40 years ago. I won this dental competition 10 years ago with a whole bunch of American dentists. And my last filling was done actually at dental school.
Wow.
So since I learned what I learned, I have had no real treatment, and neither did my mother, and neither have my kids, and neither have my grandkids, and my grandkids are teenagers. So, I mean, and then they're patients, and you can read the reports on YouTube. This stuff works. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have a great one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining my conversation with Dr. Ellie Phillips. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. You can find more information about Dr. Ellie in the show notes.